Hello, Descendants. So as everyone knows, I have been trying to compile a spreadsheet, if you were, of all of the weapons and all of the damage types that come with it, and how damage is calculated for every gun inside of the First Ascendant. This journey began as you would think. I began looking at the base stats of every weapon, but then as I calculated the base stats of every weapon, I realized that that was the wrong way to go about it. What I needed was the stats of the weapons at level 100. I thought that it was going to be an easily transferred thing. Every level 1 weapon was going to have X modifier for X level, taking it to X damage. That was not the case. There is a table of data that they have made up the numbers, how much each weapon should do, what seems to be willy-nilly. And I made this spreadsheet, or something very similar to this. However, Deckards, someone from my Discord, took the API script, which looks like this. It's just a list of values of this, and they made this automated spreadsheet that calculates the damage based off of the table of values using the level, which you can alter. So the link to this one will be inside of the description of the video because it's just better than mine. Now, whenever you're calculating damage in the First Descendant, there's essentially 3 kind of damages that I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at base damage with no critical modifiers. Then I wanted to look at critical modifiers, which aren't calculated inside of the DPS formula of the gun. And that's why everything feels wrong, because the gun isn't accounting for weak point. It seems like it's not even really accounting for critical hit correctly. An unmodified base gun with really crappy rolls is pretty close to this spreadsheet. But as soon as you start slapping mods on that bad boy, it's all wrong. So if we were going to look at base DPS with no critical modifiers, we would quickly see that shotguns are immediately the strongest weapons in the game, which is funny because they are notoriously the worst weapons in the game. This is just due to damage fall off though, and spread. It's really hard to hit. So basically shotguns are out as far as most people's builds go, although I do think there's hope for a Glay using an Executor to blow the vestigial organ out of the water. Which I'll go over that later. Of course, inside of the high-powered rounds, the first 2 weapons are going to be Tamer and Eternal Willpower, which I knew immediately that meant this data was probably accurate. However, there's hope. We don't necessarily need to use the Tamer for the rest of our lives, because once we start factoring things like weak point damage, the tier list switches entirely. Yes, still shotguns, but sniper rifles become the strongest weapons in the game immediately. I'd like to take out heavy weapons entirely from this pool of choices to choose from for me, and you'll see that the hand cannons are the strongest weapons in the game. I don't know if anyone's taken a hand cannon past its breaking point and fully leveled it up yet. I certainly haven't. Who wants to waste their resources on a hand cannon when you could waste them on a Tamer? The first not hand cannon gun in the list is going to be Python, which is a weak point damage. So I expect some crazy Python builds in the near future. And then the next one, a Wave of Light, which is a weapon I'll probably try to max out next. And I'll see if this is better than my Tamer, which is the next weapon. The difference from the top gun and the 6th top gun is a 25% damage difference. That's an insane difference for 6 guns at the top of the list. So if anyone has a fully maxed out perforator and is clapping this game, let me know, because that's what I'm about to do. So here is an X factor of all of the 21 ultimate guns in the game. I'd like to take some time to go over some character-specific ones that I think can really crack them. And I'll start with Glay, everyone's favorite damage dealer. On the note of Glay, I would like to point out the fact that the reason Vestigial Organ's so good with Glay is because it has unlimited ammo, even though it says right here, applies lethality during which bullets are not consumed. I actually think that her being able to get unlimited rocket launcher rounds isn't supposed to happen. But that's my personal opinion on Glay. I doubt they wanted you to go around shooting everything with unlimited rockets without reloading it. That's not intended, I don't think. The Executor. So whenever you shoot the Executor, you get stacks. At maximum stacks, your firearm attack increases by 30% multiplier. And then whenever you're shooting an electrocuted enemy, which you should have been because of the Executor's exaltation, you get firearm 5%, which essentially says that if you're shooting this weapon with glay, you get a 35% damage to your damage on one of the highest damaging guns in the game. So I don't have glay unlocked, but this game makes me want to unlock glay and try it out. Python. Unique ability, Prey. Whenever you're firing an enemy and hitting them continuously, they get a maximum of 80% defense reduction. No matter what you do, you're not going to decrease the boss's resistance below 80. That's what this 80% right here means. It doesn't mean there's a cap on 80% of defense. It means you can't decrease someone's defense by a cap of 80%. And seeing how the Python is already one of the strongest ones, sounds like a non-attribute resistance removal is good for some particular characters.
Albeit.
And Enduring Legacy is also quite high on the list. So whenever you take into account weak point damage, I do believe these 5 weapons are going to be running amok inside of the First Descendant. I think that Thunder Cage is still really good, and everyone likes Thunder Cage because you pop enemies like balloons. Why wouldn't you like Thunder Cage? So I'm really curious as to see the future of the First Descendant, and I think that we'll start seeing a lot more people with using these. Now, I'm not saying this spreadsheet is going to cause them to use these. Usually, the meta gravitates to the strongest weapons in the game anyway, just because people realize that that does the most damage. So this was an eventuality anyway, and the numbers in the sheet reflect the eventuality that would have happened, which tells me that all of this data is accurate. I have obviously looked at the data and checked the calculations, and it is. I had high hopes for Fallen Hope, but it seems like a worse version of the Thunder Cage unless you're Freyna specifically. So I just wanted to share the spreadsheet with the community. Should give everyone some insight into what weapons they want to pick, what weapons they want to farm for, and what weapons they want to try to out DPS the Tamer, Eternal Willpower. And then the next project going forward will be to start putting in character factors, like a glay factor where the reload time is removed from the equation because she doesn't need to reload in her ultimate, or a Freyna factor where her ultimate is impacted by the amount of magazine increase from the other gun, because if you didn't know, Freyna's ultimate is actually impacted by magazine increases on the weapon itself, whether it be through the mod or through the weapon's roll. You can increase the amount of ammunition for Freyna's ultimate. But honestly, this gives me a little bit of hope for the meta in the game, and I think that we'll see some changes in the near future. But I think we would have seen the changes anyway. I don't think it would have came from this spreadsheet. Some of them will, though. Mine definitely will. I'll be trying out the Perforator in the Python first. The thing that gets me is that Burning Hound is in the running for the top 10, and it's a standard. So maybe we'll actually be able to use one of these skins that we can't use on any other weapon. But I'm super excited. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Y'all have a good day. Peace out.